Welcome to Duncan Thorin Shields YouTube channel. I managed to con Duncan into convincing his friend to pay me thousands of dollars as a professional Counter-Strike player, so maybe he can convince you that some of his analysis is correct.
The new challenger stage of IEM Katowice, the 14th CSGO major, has been and gone. We have the 8 teams that are going through. We have the 8 teams that are out. If you saw my last pick'em video, unexpectedly, it actually went almost perfect. Like, I got literally 7 of the 8 teams. I got the 3-0, I had NRG. I got a 0-3, I had Greyhound. Even the other team I actually considered picking for the 0-3 was Spirit. They went 0-3. And the only team I got wrong was Fnatic, which I'm pretty sure every single pick'em I actually saw had Fnatic on. In fact, a lot of people had them 3-0, but I actually thought they were kind of a little bit bait for that. For me, Cloud9, NIP, and Fnatic were the ones where like you were risking it if you went for them for the 3-0. Whereas I thought NRG, much more consistent team, good team, would have great elo system, a route through the tournament, and indeed they did. So anyway, as I often tell people, nobody can really predict it like an incredibly high success rate. If they did, they wouldn't be analysts. They'd just go gamble and make millions of dollars, wouldn't they? Or they'd be the highest paid person in the world who made the odds system for a massive gambling site. So anyway, that is to say, watch this if you want. See if you make good points. If you'd like to do some of these as your pick'ems, do it. I don't really give a fuck if you do, if you don't. And if you lose, I'll laugh in your face as much as I'll laugh if you don't pick them and I get it right. So whatever, that's what I do, right? That's the Thorin persona. So okay, we're going to go into CSGO. Let's do the pick'ems for the new Legends stage now and see which teams we're going to have going through. So here we are on the pick'em. As I did before, we'll start with the extremes. So we've got the 3-0 team. Now this one's obviously, in theory, easy, right? You pick Astralis. But is it easy? Because the real question is, are there teams out there that are going to upset Astralis in a best of 1? Now, if you think about the maps that are out there, I don't think it's implausible that teams are going to do it. Like, someone could get Astralis to a Mirage or an Overpass. We know they can lose those. A team that's willing to play Dust 2, we know how streaky that can be. Obviously, no one's going to play them on Nuke in theory. Very few teams are going to play them on Inferno unless they're amazing on Inferno, which you could say, yeah, they might lose, but Astralis very rarely loses Inferno. So the problem is here, there's other teams out there, but are any of them really going to go 3-0? Let's just get this one out of the way. Let's just put Astralis 3-0, right? The problem is you can't justifiably analyse putting any of the team. And by the way, for everyone who brought it up on the other pick'em video, I am aware that in theory, if you want to game the system and win the coin, you actually shouldn't put like Astralis 3-0 because they're almost definitely going to advance. You should put a different team as the 3-0 and then gamble that happens. That's what everyone was telling me to do, but I don't really care about that personally. I'm actually just trying to show you what I genuinely think of the tournament. I don't give a fuck if I get this coin or not. So I'm going to go 3-0 Astralis. Now let's figure out who is the worst team in the field. Now, the big problem here is, I don't really think we had weak teams coming out of the new challenger stage. Yes, Vitality certainly had their ups and downs and took MBK as well as Zewu carrying to get them through. G2 was a hit and miss, but they actually started to improve towards the end. NIP was a little bit weird starting out. Cloud9 was a bit underwhelming. I think probably the most obvious people here to pick, though, is either a Vanguard. Never succeeded at this kind of a stage before. They play a much better level of opponent. Are they really going to win a best of 3 against many of these teams? They can win against a couple of them, but probably not many, right? So you have to kind of be able to get the right opponents, and they're not going to have the craziest elo. So they're definitely a candidate, despite the fact they're actually a better team than some of the other teams here. Complexity's got to be considered. They're using stand-ins. They haven't done practically anything in best of 3 series. Remember, that was all best of 1s at last major, and they have a different lineup anyway. Big doesn't have Smooya. So how will Next come back in the lineup? Will they be any good? I think personally with Xantares, that's still enough firepower. They have a good shot to get out. Hellraisers is very up and down, and I've quite frankly stopped kind of betting on those guys. I actually feel like they are just best of 1 upset potential. Sure, they've got Hobbit. They've integrated him a bit. Beyond that, who else is there? Now, I know people are going to say, what about Na'Vi? Very fragile, very up and down. Nah, come on. You can't do that. If anything, I could see a world in which Cloud9 goes 0-3. They were very shaky in that last stage. I didn't really buy that like it was a legit performance at the E-League Invitational. As in, they know themselves it's a honeymoon period. It's a one-off with a new player. Probably going to change the lineup. They're doing the best they can. No one expects them to win. That's a great scenario in which to come in and just play very free. Now you're at the major. Now people expect things. All the same, I won't pick them as my 0-3. I think my 0-3 has to be between Hellraisers, Complexity, Big, and a Vanguard. So I'm actually going to personally go with Complexity because just my gut tells me it's Complexity or Hellraisers. And Hellraisers has the mad firepower to get that best of one upset, which only needs one to stop going 0-3. So I'm going to say Complexity does it. But I could see a world in which it's Complexity and Vanguard, for example, that are the 0-3s. So now let's pick the teams that are going to get through. So obviously, we need 7 more teams. We'll make the first part quick enough when we think there's teams, but here's the interesting thing. There's actually not that many teams in the field that are guaranteed. There's teams that overall should do better, but many of them have new lineups, haven't played a LAN this year. Obviously, some of them actually were dipping in form at the end of last year. So since they already had an amazing team, Team Liquid, since they already used to make a lot of playoff scenarios, since they actually have even more firepower, they've just won iPower Masters. Sure, I think that performance itself might be a little bit of a honeymoon. I don't necessarily know if they're ready to displace Astralis as the best team, but I'm going to say Team Liquid gets through. I think it's pretty reasonable. I think it's their time to do it again and be a very strong team. So let's go beyond that. Let's try. I'm trying to make it the most obvious ones and go in descending order. So the interesting thing now is, I feel like a lot of the middling teams are the ones that are in decent form, like ENCE and Renegades and NRG in terms of this field. But then you look at teams that are the big names, the FaZe clans, the Navis, the MIBRs. There's a reason why all these teams could fail. So I'm going to take one of those big dogs, right? Because FaZe, MIBR, and Navi. I mean, I might end up taking all 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, right? First and foremost, with how FaZe Clan plays, they're certainly still somewhat fragile for how incredibly strong their players are. Like, it's almost unthinkable rather, some of them losses they've had, like against Cloud9 at the E-League Invitational. But they've still got Nico. He himself is a god and could get you through this stage. They've got pretty good fragging power overall. Obviously got a lot to prove at the major. So I'm going to take them at some point, but I'm not going to take them actually necessarily first. I'm actually going to take MIBR. MIBR, not only, I mean, this is just a narrative one. This is not analysis. They not only traditionally always get out of this group stage, but actually I'm very excited for this lineup. I know people don't think it's going to be the best because they don't think it's going to be like the world beater, the number 1, the win a major. This lineup, I think, can win a major. I mean, it's got the potential to do it. Potential is very different from doing it, obviously, but they do have the players to do it. I think they're going to get back some of that chemistry. I predict they will get back some of that incredible identity of being really tough and gritty and tough to beat and able to grind you out and win those close games. So I'm actually going to take MIBR as my second team to get out. Third, actually, I guess, because I had Team Liquid and Astralis. Then I'm going between Na'Vi and FaZe Clan. So I'm actually going to go ahead and say, despite all the problems they have, despite the fact that I just said all that stuff about FaZe Clan, I'm going to take FaZe Clan as my next team to get out. I know they've actually themselves been a little bit rocky at majors, but there's so much quality in the team and so many proven players that loose playing style, it does yield a solid result. For me, because it's so streaky, it reminds me of teams that just shoot the ball all the time in basketball. It's like you're going to shoot yourself out of games and lose them when you're not hot. But you're going to, so often, if you have good shooters, be so consistently like making more shots than the other team, getting nice leads on the opponent, basically getting yourself out of trouble. That's like, it's when you got that much skill as FaZe is, it's fucking hard to not get to the playoffs. So after them, I am indeed going to take Na'Vi. I think it's unreasonable not to. They've still got Simple. I know Electronics has been a bit off. Like, he had an okay performance recently, but he had some tournaments towards the last 4 to 5 months of the last year that were a bit rocky. They've still got the best player in the world. They're still a quality side. I know their map pool's falling apart. I'm actually feeling like they're doing a bit of bait. I think Zeus is doing a bit of clickbait with some of the drama things. So I don't think they're actually in peak form. I don't think they're anywhere close to ESL Cologne last year. But I am going to go ahead and say I'll take them. So we've got 3 spots left, and now is where it gets tough. So if Big Ed had Smooya, I'd lock that straight in. I thought that was a line that had a lot of potential, especially in a field like this. Cloud9, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I'm not going to pick Cloud9. I've only got 3 teams left. I don't see the quality in the team. Like, I think they are a mixed team. They play like that. Sure, the map pool's been somewhat actually impressive if you count E-League and this major, but I'm personally not buying them to get through. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because in terms of the teams that are left, the ones that actually are the most consistent in terms of quality would probably be Renegades and NRG, in my opinion. Those and ENCE. Those are the 3 where I feel like there's a consistency. I know which players are going to play well. I know which players might suffer. I know maps they'll be good on. So do I just pick all 3 of these and play it safe? I could, but I feel like that's not really the way to do this, because I feel like sometimes you should use a little bit of gut feeling, because when you decide in between them, you have to kind of think, oh, what does my gut tell me is going to happen more often? So actually, even though they definitely have chalked up in big games, and they haven't They had some big wins over top teams, but actually considering how many big placings they've had, they haven't had as many ranked wins as you might think. I am going to pick NRG. I'm going to say they have the quality. The one thing I'm scared about with them, they do still have a pretty young trio of stars. If a couple of them flunk the major, that's them done. They're playing a lot of good teams and a lot of teams with firepower at this stage, but I think NRG will make it through. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm not going to take Vitality. I didn't think they were actually that impressive in the stage before. I know Renegades was good, but is Renegades going to get out of this stage? Let's see. I've got 2 slots left. And like I say, I'm eliminating some of these immediately. So, NIP. They certainly have the quality to do it. They have the firepower to do it. In some senses, to me, they're kind of like a mixture of like FaZe Clan in as much as they've got a lot of firepower. Underrated firepower, actually, because a couple of them aren't really in great form. But they've also got like a style that isn't really the best, but it works. So I guess that's kind of like Na'Vi. And they have a pretty solid map pool, even though they don't necessarily have maps where they're gods. So that's kind of like NRG overall, because even NRG's best map overpass, people can beat them on. So NIP's like a pretty decent pick to go through here, and I'm tempted to pick them. Like really, if I'm being honest, the teams I'm really narrowed it down to here is I'm ignoring G2. Like they were too much up and down, and it really was just off the stars, even though the fragging was somewhat good. I don't care about all the stuff from practice. A Vanguard, I don't think they can make it on this stage. If they can prove me wrong, they get into a lot of close games and they do get a lot of rounds. So I give them a lot of credit, but that was before. At this stage, they probably should go out. It's between Renegades, NIP, and Ensign. I've only got 2 spots left. So which is the most likely of these to get through? Let me think. Because I'm not taking big, I'm afraid. Like, they have to show me that they're going to be really good for me to actually to take them. Even though they've upgraded the firepower, it's the lack of smoothie. Like, I feel like they're either going to be much better or a little bit worse. That's the downside I have. So since I haven't seen them play with this line, I can't go ahead and predict that. So I'm going to go ahead, actually, and say I will take the somewhat unpredictable NIP. And now I have to pick between Ents and Renegades. Ents and Renegades. Like, this might seem weird, because if you ask me who's a better team overall, I mean, history tells us I have to say Ents. Like, they've done more. But the problem is, their consistency in a weird way is a problem at this stage of a tournament and with best of 3s to get qualified through the next stage, because I actually feel like they're not going to hit above their ceiling much. Like, their ceiling and their basement are quite similar levels. They're not going to be too high and too low, but I don't think their ceiling's as good as some of the other teams. So bearing in mind, with the ELO system, you're also not just playing any random team, you're playing good teams as well. You have to be able to upset them. That's something to think about. That's the reason why NIP's a good pick at this point in time. That's the reason why Hellraisers wouldn't have been great. That's the reason why I've sort of picked Hellraisers to not go 0-3. I think they'll get that upset even against some good team, maybe in, let's say, the second round or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, using that logic, yes, believe it or not, this is not about hype. Remember, I said Graham 0-3, and they did go 0-3, and fuck those guys. I mean, not really. I'm just kind of bantering because of the Dick Stacey shit. I'm going to take Renegades. I'm taking the boys to get it through to a legend spot of a major, something they've never done before. There's my pick'ems. Pick 'em at your own risk. This video and all of the content on my channel is kindly supported by Dean Tanglis, Andreas, Snazore Westerlund, Gardner Wilson, James Harding, OllieJ, Tobias Bernasconi, NateDOhDoubleG, Travis Greb, Tristan Jones, and as always, a special thanks goes out to Jerky's Minion. Do you want to take part in an esports discussion with yours truly? Would you like teasers for some of my upcoming content, see who the guests are going to be? Do you want to ask me a question for my monthly video AMA? Perhaps you'd like to suggest a guest you'd like to see in my content or a topic to discuss. Well, if so, then put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today at the Patreon link in the description box below.